大家好，我是老姚。今天咱们来围观一场国际友好交流，主角们是咱们中国的学者高志凯教授，还有两位来自南亚次大陆自带咖喱味自信的印度专家。开局阿大首先发难，我说高教授啊，你们中国咋回事啊？一口一个铁哥们儿，一口一个全天候的叫巴基斯坦，这像话吗？恐怖袭击人家巴基斯坦说要公正调查，你们也跟着喊。以前那些调查对我们印度根本没用啊，没把我们想要的坏蛋揪出来呀。
How can the Chinese foreign minister continue to call Pakistan an ironclad brother and an all-weather strategic partner, and also use the same language which the Pakistani side is using, calling for an impartial probe, when in the past impartial probes have really not got anywhere for India in terms of calling out these terror groups and getting the Pakistani state to act against these terror groups?
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, the deterioration of the situation between India and Pakistan as we speak is a reason for great concern. These are two big countries, both armed with nuclear weapons, and over the decades they have fought many times. So this is the right time to call on both India and Pakistan to exercise the maximum restraint and seek a peaceful solution, because otherwise the consequence will be too much for either India or Pakistan to bear. Now, secondly, when you talk about terrorist attacks, you may know inside Pakistan there have been terrorist attacks against the Chinese nationals. And we actually lost quite a few Chinese nationals inside Pakistan. But we always called for a thorough investigation into what exactly is happening behind the scene, who was pulling the trigger, who was committing all these atrocities. And I think China is using the same philosophy to apply to this particular round of attack, because the attack may be initiated by anyone rather than by the government of Pakistan. This is time for both India and Pakistan and all the other stakeholders to work very closely to get to the bottom of the situation, rather than allowing this attack to be the
Professor
trigger
Gao,
of
last
escalation.
year when there were the Chinese CPEC projects that were attacked in Balochistan, and I saw the Foreign Ministry's statement, it did not mince any words. It certainly did not call Pakistan an ironclad brother in the aftermath of the attacks that killed Chinese nationals in Balochistan.
The point is very simple. We need to call for impartial and complete and thorough investigation into the background of this attack before any country should seize this opportunity to use this attack as the trigger for escalation of tensions or even conflict between India and Pakistan. Now, the third point I want to add, please, with your permission, is that China and Pakistan are all-weather ironclad allies. No one should second-guess this alliance between China and Pakistan. China will always come to Pakistan's help and assistance whenever Pakistan's sovereignty and territorial integrity will be threatened by any country. So this is a very serious matter. You're talking about a war between Pakistan and India on the one hand, and then you are talking about the ironclad alliance between China and Pakistan, and China's full commitment to defend Pakistan's sovereignty.
听听这口气啊，不知道的还以为咱们交朋友说句话还得先向新德里打个报告呢。我们叫巴铁铁哥们儿，那是几十年风雨同舟换来的情谊，你管得着吗？再说了，公正调查这词儿怎么了？高教授说的多明白啊！咱们中国在巴基斯坦也遭遇过恐袭，牺牲了不少同胞啊。那时候我们也是要求彻查，查明真相，找出幕后黑手。我们这叫一视同仁，怎么到您这就成了偏袒了？合着只有按您印度的心意查出来让您称心如意的结果才配叫公正呗？玩双标也不是这么玩的，自己跟邻居那点破事掰着不清楚，别老想着拉中国垫背，也别对中巴友谊指指点点。印度阿大继续抱怨巴基斯坦武器大多来自中国，印度阿二还紧跟着又来反咬一口，说你们中国人在巴基斯坦被打就是因为你们去人家动乱地区瞎掺和，抢人家矿 人家分裂组织早就警告过你们了啊，这是你们自找的，而且巴基斯坦和恐怖组织有联系，你们还敢公开要保卫它？
I'm glad, Professor Gao, you've been upfront here on our show. Professor Chalani, at least you can't fault him for hiding the Chinese game. He's upfront and he's saying that it'll come to Pakistan's defense, which is its ironclad brother. I was going through the amount of weapons that the Chinese have supplied to Pakistan. It's full of 2 pages full, from JF-17 fighter jets to Yuan-class submarines to the P-10 and P-15 missiles. I mean, 60% of Pakistan Army's weaponry today comes from China. And Professor Gao, I have issues with what you said, but I certainly will not fault you for being forthright. So, Professor Chalani.
Well, this attempt to draw a false equivalence argument, trying to place the victim and the attacker on par, and then distorting why Chinese nationals have been killed in Pakistan. They have been killed in Pakistan because they have pursued projects in areas of separatist unrest. These separatist groups have warned China against exploiting the mineral resources and other natural resources in those lands, especially Balochistan. And yet China, with the assistance of the Pakistan military, has engaged in reckless exploitation of the mineral wealth of Balochistan. That's the reason why Chinese nationals have come under attack in Pakistan. In this case, there is one nation whose military has had long-standing ties with terror groups, cozy relationships with these terror groups, which has been responsible for serial attacks on civilians in India, that has been labeled by the West as a mecca of terrorism.
哎呦喂，R2更是重量级选手啊，这逻辑简直是突破天际。按您这说法，我们去帮人家搞建设，促进发展，流血牺牲了，还得怪我们动机不纯，恐怖分子搞袭击倒成了正义之举了。您这是给暴恐洗地，还是脑子被恒河水泡坏了？贼喊捉贼也不是这么喊的。至于谁是恐怖主义温床，谁跟某些组织勾勾搭搭，国际的社会自有公论。前阵子万斯见完莫迪，第2天就出现恐怖袭击，然后直接定性为巴基斯坦，美国马上跳出来支持印度。你揣着明白装糊涂有意思吗？现在反咬一口，想把这顶黑帽子扣在中国头上，你这操作堪称甩锅界的泥石流。说着说着，印度 R2还高潮上了，质问要是印巴真打起来，你们中国到底会不会给巴基斯坦提供军事后勤支持呢？不止质问，还想拿脱钩吓唬我们呢，想让我们在印巴之间做选择题。
China today has the audacity to defend Pakistan and to say openly that it will come to Pakistan's assistance if its territorial sovereignty and integrity are threatened. The fact is that this nexus between China and Pakistan is a clear warning to India that India faces 2 regional adversaries, both of which are nuclear armed, both of which are revisionist powers. Yeah. They are revisionist because they seek to change their borders with India. Both are not content with the status quo. Both are openly hostile to India. And therefore, India should be under no delusion.
No, India should claw back on this whole road to normalization. I mean, we have just announced that we're resuming the Mansarovar Yatra. We've just announced that we're resuming direct flights between Delhi and Beijing. India should claw back. I mean, today, Professor Gao, there are credible media reports, there is satellite imagery to show that Chinese logistical movements, including fuel and engineering supplies, near Pakistan's northern regions. Can you categorically confirm or deny to our viewers who are watching here in India that if a situation were to escalate between India and Pakistan, that China will not come to Pakistan's aid, providing it military and logistical supplies?
Thank you very much. Allow me to make several very brief points. First of all, I have great respect for India as a country and as a nation. On the other hand, allow me to emphasize the size of the Chinese economy today is about 5 times as big as India's economy. This is the reality. But the point is, if India wants to shut itself out of China, it's in the detriment of the Indian people. So don't talk to me about closing China away from India, because you will do that with great harm to the fundamental interest of the Indian people. That's number one. Number two is don't ever underestimate China's commitment to Pakistan to defend Pakistan's legitimate interest of its sovereignty and territorial integrity.
听听高教授的霸气回应。首先，我们尊重印度，但现实是，今天中国的经济体量大概是印度的5倍。你想把自己关在中国门外，那是你们对印度人民利益的巨大损失。别跟我谈这个，听见没？5倍，想玩脱钩？您先问问自己兜里的卢比答不答应？你这是伤敌100，自损1000起步啊！拿这个威胁我们，钥匙10块钱3把，你配吗？第二，永远不要低估中国对巴基斯坦的承诺，只要巴基斯坦的主权和领土完整受到威胁，中国一定会出手相助。听清楚了吗？永远不要低估，一定会出手，这就是中国的态度，这就是中国的承诺，还需要问吗？这场对话哪是什么辩论呀，就是一场单方面的教做人课堂。印度某些阿三呀，心比天高，嗓门挺大，就是脑子不太灵光，实力也不太允许。想挑拨中巴关系，省省吧；想对中国指手画脚，掂量掂量自己。